Hello everyone, welcome to another ESPGaluda or ESPGaluda video. This is a 1cc run, this time with Tateha. Previously I had posted a video with the other character Ageha, and I will admit I found it a lot harder to get the 1cc with Tateha than I did with Ageha. It was actually quite interesting to me because I went through and had already gotten the 1cc, and I thought it would just be some refinements moving from one character to the next. But it turns out that for several reasons that I'll try to point out instances of in the videos, that Tateha has some characteristics that I think really emphasize some of the fundamentals of the genre a little more. And I think one of my takeaways was that I was not nearly as fundamentally sound as I thought I was. So those factors really are the movement speed, both in and out of Kakusei. So here I'm in Kakusei, and the movement speed is quite fast for Tateha. And then, like, on the contrary, when you're not in Kakusei, or I'll use that phrase throughout the video, Kakusei is the bullet time mode. When you're not in Kakusei, the movement speed is actually quite slow comparative to Ageha. So there's many instances where you can't macro dodge something that maybe you could with Ageha unless you're in Kakusei, which generally you only want to use for certain situations. So you're seeing here where I am in Kakusei and obviously going for some score. This is another aspect that was interesting because even here in stage 1, I found it harder to come up with a strategy of when and how to use Kakusei to try and get my gems up. So you see, I ended up with my gold ingots, they ended up around 400. The reason that's important is, mainly from a scoring perspective, but even when you're playing for survival, it is, at least I have found it handy to try and get as high a score as you can early on, because that early on score will help you get the score-based extends or extra lives later through the playthrough. I have found it a little bit nerve-wracking. Maybe nerve-wracking is not the right word, but if you're not getting the extend till later, I don't know if it's just a mental phenomena or what, but you don't feel like you have enough margin. So here I am, trying to get decent score, and I ended up with around 1.8 million. Which is actually pretty good, as one of the better I've had for Tateha. So that was stage 1. Like I had mentioned, some experimentation, some differences between Ageha and Tateha. So here in stage 2, there's not as much for me to talk about as there is about the routing and whatnot as the game goes on. So I'll one other topic I wanted to bring up slightly here is another thing I'm doing in this video is using it as a little bit of a video test, in that I recorded this, again using the replay feature of the PS2 version. So this was all recorded on the PS2 version, and this run was actually done with a controller, not with the arcade stick. And one of the things that the replay feature affords you is that when you use it, you can actually change the display from there were 2 Tate, so even if you're not playing in Tate, because I don't have a Tate monitor set up, but I was able to rotate the screen and record it in Tate mode, which gets better use of the screen because the source is only 640 by 480. So rather than putting black bars around the left and right, if you rotate it to Tate, you get the full resolution, from the PS2 source. So this is also a little bit of a tech tech experiment. And the other aspect of that is the scan lines. I found out in my recent Ninja Gaiden video that I was surprised at how heavy the deinterlacing processing that YouTube puts on its videos is. So much so that I might actually look to post these on a different platform to see if those other platforms don't deinterlace as heavily, because I actually love the aesthetic, and as I'm recording this video audio of me watching the playthrough, I'm watching it with the full interlace scan lines, and it's just kind of an aesthetic for whatever reason I really enjoy. So, and YouTube heavily filters it, which actually for quick motion can actually make it look somewhat stuttery and lower frames per second lower frame rate than the actual recording was. But anyway, that's enough for my tech demo or tech considerations. So here we are at the second stage boss. I got here with less than 400 gems. So that kind of makes the strategy, I'll say, a little more dicey in that you don't want to go into Kakusei too early, because the last form of this boss, again, when you're going for survival, the last form of this boss actually spawns a bunch of enemies, satellite enemies I'll call them. When you kill each one, it actually consumes some of your gems, so it's actually kind of an anti-gem mechanic that the boss uses. You can see I am still going for the bullet cancels at the end of each form, so that's consuming some of my gems, and I'm here on this last form with only 150, which doesn't allow me to go into Kakusei too early. So I was able to go into it pretty late there and still get the cancel on all 3 forms with only 20 gems left. So far, this run's going really good. I got the extend early, so now I'm here in stage 3, got full bombs, haven't had to use any bombs. Not that it's a big deal on the first couple stages, because about halfway through this stage you get the refresh opportunity on your bombs. So first stage is stage 2. This is where it becomes a little more interesting to comment on, some specifics of the run and whatnot. This run, I definitely used Kakusei to get more cancels. Sometimes I'll use the term hoard gems. You can see I'm floating right around less than 100, and I'm going for cancels. I'm getting points, not necessarily stockpiling gems to make sure I have like a full 500 for the mid-boss. Definitely in this stage, not required for the mid-boss, but nonetheless, kind of using the cancels really as a survival tool. I mean, they get you points, but it's also a survival tool. If you kind of have a screen clearing cancel, it's a lot less to just worry about. Again, with Tateha's slower movement speed, I found as I was practicing with her just that to be more helpful. So again, still going for cancels, and now we're at the mid-boss with around half gems, 250, plenty for what's needed, because again, I have never found this mid-boss to be challenging from where I really feel I need to use Kakusei for survival purposes. So I'm still getting all the cancels again. Usage of gems pretty good. I finish up around 24, and there's a ton of popcorn enemies here that load you back up on gems to full 500. Okay, so now we're in the second half of the stage. This is quite a long stage actually. So you see how I didn't get to 500 till almost the end, but nonetheless I got there. I'll get the points from the bomb refill because I was already full bombs. I'll also mention that, by this point, every once in a while I'll have a run where I, just slip up in the first half. Not super common, but this is kind of where the game gets interesting enough that on any given time you can just kind of mess it up and, have a bad miss early on. But again, this run's going very smooth up to this point. Here I'm sitting on full gems, so I'll use the cancel. And again, I'm using it for survival here, Kakusei, to get the cancels. And with Tateha, once you go into Kakusei, movement speed goes up quite a bit. So, one of the advantages of using her is that you can, kind of macro and use Kakusei for repositioning for more advantageous screen positions. Like right here, I move all the way over to the right, so I'm able to clear out those tanks before they cover the screen in bullets. You also saw back there was one time I kind of went into Kakusei and then decided to go out of it. Kind of moment of indecision. No harm, no foul. So we're approaching the end of the stage here. Here's the hidden extend. So coming out of this, I have now 5 lives, so there's just one more score extend to go before I'm fully stocked up on life again. No bad misses, full bombs. At this point, this is, a pretty solid run. definitely for quite a few of my runs. I'll have some kind of slip up or bomb usage. At this point, very, very kind of smooth run. Okay. I'm able to get the cancel there. Really no problems on that first half. Sometimes I do because I just don't read the dots as well. Here on this form again, so here's one of the first moments where I find that Tateha is difficult, because when you go in the Kakusei movement speed very high, and it's very easy to inadvertently just run into one of those bullets, because that when you're in Kakusei, the bullets are moving very slow, you're moving very quick. And that's a problem I don't have with Ageha, so that was one of the big adjustments in trying to get the clear with Tateha, which I didn't mention up front, but it took me quite a bit more practice. It probably took another 10 to 20 extra hours of practice with Tateha, which I definitely was not expecting. Okay, stage 4. This is where sometimes the nerves can really start to set in, particularly on a good run like this, because I've had countless runs where I kind of go into stage 4 with 5 lives and then hit a bad string of deaths, and you kind of have one miss, and then you kind of get this psychological momentum that kind of really goes downhill quick. I also found this is kind of the stage where routing becomes really important, particularly with Tateha, because the firepower isn't as high as Ageha, unless you're in the focus shot. But when you want to macro and move around, one of the advantages of Ageha is that that more focused, narrower shot allows you to move around quite quickly and reposition, where Tateha just cannot do that. So here is actually a great example of knowing where enemies spawn, because sometimes if these eagles come down and you're not focused on them right away and you don't go into Kakusei, they can really fill the screen quick, and then it's hard to get a cancel, boxes you into a screen of the corner, and it becomes rough. But here, again, very smooth. This is, at this point, a really good run for me. So this first pattern, I usually go into Kakusei. I did there. I find the keys to focus on the dots between the lanes. Again, movement speed is a fact here. So second pattern, I always use Kakusei here. The reason is the speed of the pattern. It's a lot faster than most patterns in this game. So my eyes aren't necessarily calibrated to that speed, and I find it harder to dodge. But unfortunately, with Tate, I find it harder to dodge in Kakusei because, again, that faster movement speed. So in the second half, I really, because this run is going so well at this point, I try to liberally use gems. Totally using Kakusei as a survival mechanic at this point, much less so for scoring. Also, had to use a bomb there. Again, not a pretty good bomb. Use it when you need it. That's what they're there for. You don't want to be too stingy on them, but at the same point, sometimes you can use them totally when not needed. Kind of, I don't want to call it a mid-boss, but that large enemy there, again, quite smooth. Okay. So here in the second half, things going pretty smoothly. Again, this enemy here, there's 2 of them per stage. Easy to get a miss there. Got to Kakusei just in time. It ended up being an auto bomb, so it used half my bombs. So I went from 3 bombs down to 1 because the auto bomb takes 2. So could have manually bombed there. Again, not a huge deal. Would have had the bomb either way, so the auto bomb, not a big deal. Still got to the boss. Still no misses. Still have a bomb and quite a decent amount of gems. Now, in this first pattern here, this is something I found and discovered with Tateha. If you move up, this boss is different than the rest in that since it's on the ground, you can contact it and it won't kill you. It's only the bullets that kill you. So that makes this pattern here much easier. In my Ageha run, I actually die at that point, and because I hadn't figured this out yet. Here you can just zoom right up and get to the top of the screen and not have to worry about dodging through any of that. But definitely shifting to survival play, at this point. So I have the 250 gems. I could have used Kakuse here, and somebody's watching it again, surprised I didn't, but really wanted to save those gems. Definitely didn't use it for scoring there. So now I have 250. This is plenty to kind of get me through this pattern. Movement speed is a challenge here, and so I did get hit there. It was an auto bomb. When you only have one bomb left, doesn't matter if it was an auto bomb or not, because you don't take the penalty. So canceled just in time. I'm at 0 gems, but now this is a really great run at this point. No misses, and I'm on stage 5. So this is an interesting one. It's an instance where I really get to map out a desired route. I practice stage 5 with Tateha a lot again. The stage is very dependent on taking out enemies quickly, and again with the weaker shot for Tateha, if you don't do it, it can be a big problem. So a lot of practice kind of went into making sure I'm at the right spot when the enemy spawn. I'm using the right type of shot. I use Kakuse there for the cancel, using it for survival. Here I actually did figure out using shot clear with Tateha clears it out more, so then I can get quicker to using the laser on that. Again, run going really well here. So this is a routing spot where you got to get way back to the right quickly, because that next wave shows up. Again, no problem. I executed the route well there. I thought about using Kakuse, then I canceled it, and then I went back to it. Good use. I have no bomb at this point, so just got the second extend. This is earlier than usual for me, so I'm completely out of bombs. And then I use Kakuse to navigate that dense pattern. So I had to use one bomb there, but still no miss, and I'm pretty close to the boss at this point. And also this pattern is fairly controlled. This spot of the stage can really cause problems for me, because I want to try avoid having the popcorn completely kill all my gems. And in this case, I was able to do that quite well. I end up with just under the 500 gems. But again, pretty smooth that time. A lot of practice in that route, I found really tough. And even once you have a route, executing it is tough. So this first pattern on the boss is interesting. I don't think I have ever found a way to both manipulate it visually or parse it and not rely on Kakuse, so here I am using it. I have watched super replays, and I see like this quick movement from one side seems to manipulate the pattern a little bit, but it does not work for me. And this run's going so good, not going to mess with it. Use Kakuse. So the second pattern is interesting with Tateha. I always try to avoid killing the satellite, because the pattern gets very aggressive, very fast bullets if you kill it. And so I need Kakuse to survive that. So I think this pattern is more survival if you don't kill that pod at the bottom. But for whatever reason, I find that this pattern lasts longer with Tateha. Still, because of the firepower. Got the cancel there, so now I'm at full 6 lives. And here I am on the final pattern. And, I think this one, when you're on point, I really like this pattern from like watching it. It kind of gives you some satisfaction if you're navigating it. So use the bomb there, in retro, watching the replay in slow. That was a good bomb. Not sure if that was going to hit me or not. But then I use up all the Kakuse, and right at the end there, I die. Now this is interesting. You'll see me going around and getting the power-ups. I had a run where I was doing really good like this, and I didn't get the power-ups. In the next stage, I just got completely mowed down without the firepower. So definitely important to take the time to get those. Okay, stage 2, final stage here. This again with Tateha was another one where I really had to work out and practice a route. And that involves kind of staying in one spot until quite late to make sure that all of the dolls spawn. Because with the weaker firepower on shot that Tateha has, if you don't do that, some of these enemies, your shot's just not powerful enough. So screwed up here a little bit because normally I go a little slower across and I don't have to use a bomb to take out those enemies. I'll use my laser. There I used Kakusei, kind of got me off my rhythm. But it still worked out. Here I used Kakusei to navigate through, and so I'm at the 400 gems. And then what I kind of iterated to on this last portion of the stage here is to use quite a bit of the gems, go into the boss with low gems, but use this for the cancels, because those rotating ones in particular can really be tough when you start having multiple rotations in opposite directions of that pattern. It can be tough to visually parse, so using Kakusei to get that cancel, very helpful. Then I use a bomb at the end there because I know I'm going to pick up some energy for a bomb. And here we go into the last boss. 5 lives, by far the best I have ever done at this point. So it gives me a lot of margin, has me feeling good. Very straightforward. This kind of goes as usual until that point right there. There were some overlapping patterns, of those round bullets, and I felt I had to use the bomb. Not a big deal. I have the bomb to use, but just definitely feeling nerves at this point. Nerves, not a good thing for the second pattern because the bullets are very fast, very aggressive. And I didn't have many gems, so I didn't use Kakusei like I sometimes do. And that led me to having to use bombs a couple times. Again, watching it in replay, none of them were bad bombs, but definitely had to use them. And then I got closed off there. I had no bombs left. Probably should have tried going into Kakusei, see if I could have microed it, but definitely dealing with nerves at this point. But I'm able to finish them off. So now I have 4 lives left going into the second phase here, I'll say. It's a comfortable place to be. Unfortunately, the miss in the previous phase cost me full power, so I have to do all of this with, 1 notch less than full power. So on that rotation there, I ended up on the wrong, working with nerves, ended up in the wrong place, had to use a bomb. So I'm working through my bombs pretty quickly here. And going into this phase here, I always find this pattern to be tough anyway. So I go into Kakusei and kind of rely on it again. I got nerves going because this is such a great run. I have some margin. And then I run out of Kakusei, so that kind of throws me off, but I'm able to get through. So that was a key moment there. I could have had a bad miss there, but instead I kind of am able to get into this final form, or final pattern of this form, or phase of this form. So even though I have no Kakusei, I have some gems and can try to finish this phase off, without having another miss. So on this last pattern here, I'm kind of weaving my way through, try to find the open spaces, and able to do it without bombing. Don't do as much damage to the boss, so I kind of have to judge here, do I have enough time, which I do. And so now here we are on the final life bar, 4 lives left, very good compared to my usual. For the first form, this random spray on the right and left kind of poses the biggest threat for me, and I find that I can focus too much on finding the channels and ignore the spray. This time I think I was focused too much on the spray, so I ended up using both bombs, and then despite that, I get hit by one of the rain bullets that really encroached far in on the middle. So now we're kind of around the same place I'm at for this boss. As usual, 3 misses, 3 lives left, 2 misses left. Sometimes I'm a little worse than this, maybe 1 life, but full bombs, full gems, pretty good. But definitely playing it conservative here. Watching this on replay, 2 of those 3 bombs completely unneeded. I was perfectly positioned, but I just didn't trust myself. So in this second to last phase here, I have to use that bomb pretty early. So now I'm out of bombs. So this again is another kind of key moment in this boss fight. As you'll see in a couple minutes, because I start to just say, hey, I'm going for broke here. I have no bombs left, not enough gems to really kind of last too long. So just doing some nice focused dodging here, and I'm able to finish that form off. So now I have two lives margin here going into the final pattern. Best I've ever done, and probably my first chance ever to have more than one life remaining at the end. And as I'm going here, doing fine. This is a static pattern. I don't think there's much you can manipulate it, at least if you can. I haven't figured it out. And then I run into one of those bullets there. So it's like, okay, still have some margin. And then I run into another one. So it's like suddenly what went from plenty of margin, my best ever, now I'm like, I'm not sure I'm even going to clear this. I'm going to completely choke it away on the final pattern here. So I'm able to use the bomb once, dump it to the side, which you have to do on this. Use another bomb. I have two more, but definitely feeling the nerves at this point, and I make it through. But man, I'll tell you, I totally thought that I was going to choke that one away. So, this was a fun one for me. As mentioned, I definitely struggled quite a bit more with Tateha, the movement speed, the power, the inability to focus the shot. And when I say movement speed, again, in both directions, fast in Kakusei is sometimes just as challenging as slow when not in Kakusei and not being able to macro around. So anyway, this was my 1cc with Tateha. Again, I think this was kind of very good for my development as a player because it really did force me to look more into routing, to practice my routes on some of the later stages and kind of work on that skill set, which with Tateha, with Ageha, just didn't find that I had to do that as much. So, I was pretty excited, when I was able to, get this clear. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed. And also hope you enjoy seeing kind of a run from both characters, on my channel. A lot of times you'll see players with just a run with one character, and this is somewhat anecdotal, but on YouTube I definitely seem to see a lot more Ageha than Tateha 1cc runs, and I'm not, having gone through the and challenging myself in the effort of getting a 1cc with both, I definitely did find, Ageha's easier than I found Tateha's, and found that I had to really focus in on some of the fundamentals to get the 1cc with Tateha. So hope you enjoyed. I might put up a couple more videos of ESPGaluda here, before I completely finish up with it, using this run and the previous Ageha run, and just putting them the same spots side by side, so you can see some instances where, just the play style between the two characters, the two ships, is in fact quite different. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you later.